Hey, um, this will be a slightly controversial video, but there wouldn't be much point in making videos if I was going to be always thinking about someone misunderstanding it and getting offended. I don't do political correctness, so I say what's on my mind. I don't go out to offend people, but at the same time I don't censor myself. So what I want to talk about is I came across something online. Actually, if I'm being honest, I looked it up because this is something I've heard once or twice. The popular TV show Friends, the sitcom from 1994 to 2004, was hugely popular by a very wide range of people. Anyway, someone has actually went through the entire series trying to find out all the supposedly homophobic moments, homophobic jokes throughout the series. And this person has actually bothered to work out how many minutes worth of, in her opinion, homophobia there was. She worked out it was roughly 50 minutes. Then I came across a video whereby a guy has just been talking about, I'll try and put a link on this. He's saying, it's a very short video, but basically he says that saying that you have a gay friend is the biggest excuse homophobes use. Okay, I want to address this a little bit. Firstly, define homophobia exactly. My reckoning is that homophobia is holding prejudice against gay people and hating them because of their sexual orientation. To me, it makes me think of the situation in countries like Uganda and countries that have very rigid laws that genuinely persecute LGBT people. But I also believe that there's too many members of the gay community are quite frankly too sensitive. I'm talking about in Western society where gay rights have been brought about. In fact, this year Britain has become one of the countries in the world to adopt gay marriage. It's a progressive move, I support it, and there's been a lot of actually progressive legislation in the last 20 years under the Blair administration, under the Cameron administration, and things have changed. So I don't buy this claim that some people make that it's hard to be gay in a country like Britain in the 21st century. Cry me a river, really. If you're growing up in a northern city in, say, the 1970s, yeah, I can understand the argument in that case. But the idea, it really bugs me when gay people in the West, maybe with the exception of the United States, because there is, I think, there's states that have definite anti-gay legislation, and I can understand the argument there. But in liberal democracies that do have a progressive attitude to this, I just don't accept the victimhood mentality from some members of the gay community. You may have had some homophobic abuse, and I'm very sorry about that, but one thing I cannot stand is people who may have suffered some sort of prejudice, whether that be racism or sexism or homophobia, and then they go around with a chip on their shoulder. And I think too many members of the gay community, quite frankly, have that attitude. I'm not saying everyone, but I do see a lot of gay men, quite frankly, seem to have a chip on their shoulder, and they always look for reasons to be offended, and they always look for homophobia in everything. So this guy was talking about that being an excuse, and then they started rambling on about, well, they really hate gay men and stuff. The way I see it, if they really hated gay men, they wouldn't bother making excuses. They would just come out and make slanderous sort of comments and talk about their hatred. But what I'm sick of is this political correctness and this overt sensitivity. I was born a redhead, right? Now, I see ginger jokes all the time, and I could choose to say, oh, well, this is something I can't change, oh, it offends me, stop mocking me, it's just a hair colour, etc. So, really, the jokes in Friends, I've seen them, they're insinuating that these are hateful sort of things. It's a lot of rubbish. I have a friend, I actually do have a friend, I don't care whether you believe it or not, who's gay, and he likes Friends, he's a big fan of Friends. And one of the things I like about him most of all is that, unlike a lot of gay men, he isn't a prima donna. He doesn't hide behind political correctness and find offence at every damn thing. And I'm just so sick of it. I'm sick of people who, and this also applies to people who use race as a way to hide behind adult debate. In other words, if they fall out with someone, they'll automatically assume, oh, it's because I'm a minority. Likewise, there are some gay men who, if they have an argument with someone, and let's say the argument has absolutely no connection whatsoever to do with sexual orientation, I do think that they will hide behind homophobia. Now, having said that, homophobia does exist. There is genuine hate out there, and it is unpleasant, and it is unfortunate that people still have that attitude in the 21st century. But my message to certain gay men would be, get over yourselves. The world doesn't owe you anything. Being gay is entirely your right. It's the way you are, fine. But don't use it as an excuse to always wallow in victimhood, because the world doesn't owe you anything. And stop going around with a chip on your shoulder. I'm sick of it. I've been an outsider. I've had abuse for having a different accent. Again, something I can't help. And it wasn't pleasant. I'm not saying if you've been a victim of homophobia, you've every right to be angry and outraged. But I'm saying it should be genuine. If you're going to take that sort of attitude, fine, but at least make sure it is genuine homophobia, not just a joke that you just didn't like or something. I mean, the idea that Friends is hateful and get real. I mean, there was a few running gags about the character Chandler being gay, but it was never in a context of, oh, he's gay, he's disgusting, let's stay away from him, something like that. So what I'm talking about here is ridiculous political correctness, and it isn't every member of the gay community. I've seen people who, there are gay men and lesbian women who do have a sense of humour and wouldn't lose sleep over this sort of stuff. But the fact of the matter is, there are some people who just have a chip on their shoulder. The reason that's a problem is because it then leads to issues like censorship, and it leads to trying to constantly monitor everyone else, what they're saying. And let's be clear here, this is not hateful homophobes who are advocating violence against gay people or anything like that. It's just, if someone says, oh, I have gay friends, the chances are either they do, or they're not anywhere near as hateful as you think they are. I mean, in the end of the day, if you want to be treated equally, you have to also take the attitude of treating yourself equally. What that means is not wallowing in victimhood. I mean, to me, that is a sign of someone who actually lacks self-confidence. If you're constantly whinging and constantly complaining about so-called victimhood because you may have had a few bad experiences, it doesn't mean that the whole world's out to get you. And, so stop trying to find offence in everything. I mean, sometimes I get tired, being Northern Irish in England, of people sort of being a bit ignorant about that and thinking, well, it's, you're Irish, etc. I could choose to have a chip on my shoulder and really make a huge issue out of it, but I choose not to, because I recognise that the majority of people, whilst it is a bit frustrating, they don't have bad intentions. So I would suggest that whilst genuine homophobia does unfortunately exist, that does not mean that just because someone slightly disagrees with your way of thinking does not mean that they hate you. For example, if someone opposes gay marriage, you might think that's a terrible thing. And I personally am for gay marriage because I think it's just an equality thing. But I don't agree that everyone who is against gay marriage hates gay people. And I don't agree that, for example, I mean, I'm not particularly a fan of gay pride parades because I don't think that particularly helps the gay movement, and I don't really see what's the point of adults strutting around with hardly any clothes on. By the way, I'd be saying exactly the same for straight people. Exactly the same. I mean, that's the issue I take with gay pride. Why does it have to be so sexually explicit? It's one thing having pride in coming out. I do understand the logic of it. In other words, we are who we are and we're not going to be ashamed of that. Great, wonderful. But why so sexually explicit? I mean, put it this way, would it really be acceptable for straight people to do that in public? I don't think it would. But because of political correctness, and because legislators are terrified of being accused of being racist or homophobic or whatever, and because members of the gay community will kick up an almighty tantrum if they don't get exactly their own way, then it has to go ahead. So in other words, anyone who says anything against it, must be a hateful homophobe. It's just such a pathetic excuse. So you say that's an excuse from homophobes. I say you're the one making excuses, pal. You're hiding behind this. If you've had some genuine abuse from hateful people, I'm sorry about that, and you have a right to be angry with them. I mean, no one should have to put up with that. And I have personally seen homophobia. I stuck up for my friend because we were walking past and some stupid kid made a mocking sort of sound, and I didn't like it, and I confronted the guy because it's my friend. But at the same time, I cannot stand people who hide behind offence and who find a reason to be offended at everything. It's a bit like some Muslims use the Islamophobia card whenever the problem of violent Islamism is pointed out. So my message is just, by all means, if there's genuine homophobia, stand up against it, stand up for yourselves, and but stop being so ultra sensitive and finding reasons to be offended. It's pathetic.